My name is Dingo, as they said, and I'm very, very excited and very proud to present my Humanities Research Edge project, Singularity. You may be asking, is Singularity a research paper? Is it an art piece? Well, it did say it was creative writing, so I guess they kind of gave that away. But it's a fictional narrative, more so a short story that's able to explore the components of severe anxiety itself. And how I was able to generally really do this and just the journey in creating Singularity itself, the presentation outline that I'm showing you right now on the screen isn't just the outline that I'm going to use to speak to you guys. It's also the outline that I did use for Singularity itself. So of course, there was research components behind it. I kind of had to find the backbone, the structure behind how to create a short story and just how to make it more tangible. And then of course, the typical English and literary elements that I did use. But before I get into all of that, I do want to just kind of give a brief introduction to what Singularity really is. Singularity is able to offer you an opportunity to enter the eyes of the main character that I created, Adam Chinello, who portrays a very emphasized and fictional take on the trials and tribulations that do follow severe anxiety. And the purpose behind this was to kind of offer more a relatability factor to the individuals who do suffer with this mental illness, and also people who don't suffer from this mental illness, to kind of understand and put yourself in the shoes of someone who is struggling. Let that be, this person can be the happiest person in the world, but then on the inside, they're very much dealing with hell and back, basically. And it's also offering more of a vulnerability factor. While you do read Singularity, you might feel a little bit more vulnerable than you typically want to feel, but that's just kind of the point of the way I wrote it. But the consistent research aspects that I did use to conduct a short story was never really a challenge. If anything, I feel it did boost what I was wanting to do. So I had to use academic studies, let these academic studies be on PTSD, depression, severe anxiety, social anxiety, as severe anxiety is going to consist PTSD, depression, et cetera, et cetera. And then I even touched up on the topic of psychosis. So this was just able to give me more of what's going on in the psyche of individuals. And then the psychological studies and official diagnosis templates was able to give me more of the physiological aspects. So let's say when somebody is having a panic attack, their hands start getting palmy, they start getting very, very hot, they start sweating, the room starts coming in, stuff like that. And then of course, a one-on-one conversation with my psychologist kind of give me more of a wider lens of specifically how somebody does feel, and just the, I guess not the generic or stereotypical, but just what people with severe anxiety generally do feel like, and what type of situations are more apparent for everybody else. And this was able to give me attributes for Adam, my main character, and just a complete basis for scene creation in itself. But here we go, finding structure. See, these are the main three building blocks that I use to create Singularity. That very much, like I said, it was the backbone, a universal character, as it says here. If you were to take apart the name Adam Chinello, Adam specifically means man. And this is supposed to be more of a vague term, because I wasn't trying to say that only men go through mental health disorders, because that's not true. It could be women, it could be children even. So man is supposed to just more symbolize humans in general. And then Chinello means thought of, and you put it together and it's man thought of God. And this kind of gives you a sneak peek to how Adam generally does face every trial and tribulation that he goes through in the story itself. He never looks at himself for the issue, he always looks at somebody else. And this is what this godlike figure is supposed to present. Is supposed to present the external. He never really looks at himself. He starts blaming, and one of the scenes he blames the devil, to say that everything he went through was created by the devil, but never looking at himself. And then a scene checklist composed of research accuracy. When I was doing all of my research, it really did feel like I was taking a psychology course in itself. I would have all the research here piled up of notes, what I took away, da 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 da, and then I had my entire checklist with my scenes. And I would take research here, put it into a scene, research here, put it into a scene. And I was just able to give more of a realistic aspect to it, because I mean, this is a pretty, not difficult topic to say, but it's a topic that you just don't want to simply brush over. It's something that you do want to give more of a realistic and respectful approach. So this is how I was able to just create the scenes with more authenticity, if you really could say that. And then the literary devices that I use was imagery, perspective, and symbolism. And an example that I use was one of my favorites, and how I use imagery was through more, I guess, the five senses, and perspective, of course. I'll just read off the first paragraph. It says, my ears became like hound dogs, making out small instances within the psychotic mumbling. Here, I'm already give you the perspective of how Adam is feeling, and I'm also able to touch on what you're hearing first. And then I go into what he sees. Complementing this emerging sound came along white, milky streaks of light, seemingly transparent. This just builds the entire scene for you. You kind of have to use your imagination, but in any fiction narrative, you kind of have to use your imagination. But these are the ways that I use imagery and perspective. But one of my favorite ways that I use symbolism, because the entire story is very simplistic and I use a lot of metaphors, was The Man by Adam Chinella. And specifically, trying to say here is the man is a manifestation of the neglection that Adam has of his PTSD, his depression, his anxiety. He's very much neglecting himself. So let me just let Adam take it away now. And it says, I was conceived to answer the prayers of my predecessors. I wrote to become a Messiah whose smile proposed hope instead of a various timeline we call reality. A family of egocentrics handed me no other choice but to plunge into a life of falsehood. My first encounter with the man emerged once the last bits of my shredded individuality piled into specks of forgotten attributes. The man emerged from the reflection of my mirror, keeping a consistent routine. At a young age, I once tried to communicate with the man, but dear God, was this a dangerous move. Splotches of color tunneled my vision, my body lost dominance over its physical power, and I woke up beside my bed being scolded by my guardians. The man will never leave my side as our involuntary bond with each other grows within the tragedies of my life. See, here the man is just a constant reminder of what Adam never wants to see, like the shadow self of him, if we really want to say. And it does go to show just the way he expresses himself, how much it holds dominance over him, how he's very scared of the man, how it is basically dragging him around all through life and him never taking his responsibility to handle this. But I do hope that everybody does go and enjoy Singularity itself. It's up on the Humanity Research website itself. But I do want to say thank you for such a grand opportunity to the Humanities Ed Research Program and just all the faculty, staff, and just everyone who was very included in this. And Singularity really wouldn't have become the short story it was without the aid of my mentor and just without the aid of absolutely everybody who just pitched in little ideas throughout this entire process.